Third down and 20.
Our next segment, which is a little unorthodox segment, but we thought it was kind of interesting. It's a buy high and sell low, meaning this is a guy that you just truly love the value of and you're willing to pay up for, and a guy that you just think you're selling low on, but you think he's just gonna continue to get worse, and you're just selling off to cut your losses and get whatever you can. So I guess JT, you want to kick us off?
Oh, all right. Well, I wasn't ready for this. I'm excited. I'm gonna get a little flack for this because it's actually someone that I did buy high. But I have two of them here at this spot, and it's for the same reason essentially. My buy highs are wide receivers DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley. Practicing what I preach, I went out and got DJ Moore, and the reason why I did this is there's an interesting stat going around on Twitter, but it is something that should come to light. It's since 1992, so we've got about almost 30 years of sample. We've had 16 wide receivers start their first three years of their career with 300 plus targets, 200 plus receptions, and 3,000 plus receiving yards. And currently, the two that are joining that list are DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley.
Right? Who are the others?
I don't know. But of those 16 wide receivers, 75% finished their career with 3+ wide receiver 1 seasons. So 12 out of 16 have gone on to post wide receiver 1 seasons. Currently, I'm pretty sure Calvin Ridley and definitely DJ Moore are ranked outside of wide receiver 1 dynasty value. DJ Moore is obviously a lot younger than Calvin Ridley, kind of just how it worked with when they entered when they went to college. There is an age discrepancy between the two. But we've seen, really solid numbers from both of them. DJ Moore, I guess you'd say, kind of had a down year, but a down year was still a top, I believe it was, I'll pull up the stats real quick. Sorry about this. But DJ Moore finished as wide receiver 23.5 point PPR on a team that, has a lot of other weapons and Teddy Bridgewater as the quarterback. The quarterback situation, I feel like, can only get better for the Panthers. For the Falcons, Julio Jones is likely going to leave. We were talking before about the Falcons looking and shopping around Julio and Matt Ryan. So we're probably going to see fresh new faces on the Falcons, but who's still there? Who's the guy that they're building around? That's Calvin Ridley. With Arthur Smith there too, kind of like the AJ Brown role for the Falcons. I like Calvin Ridley. So these are the two guys that I'm going out and buying. I'll let you guys jump in now if you want to hate on him or like the take. Go ahead, Frank. Go ahead.
Right. I completely agree on Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, if you watch the Falcons offense and you watch the all 22 of Calvin Ridley, he is, in my opinion, undoubtedly a top 5 talented receiver in the NFL. And I have him currently as the top of my tier 2 receivers at 4th overall in Dynasty. Yes, that's over Justin Jefferson. Yes, that's over DeAndre Hopkins. I don't care. I love Calvin Ridley. His feet and his route running are insane. The guy's got insane hands. It's just he's everything you would want in a top receiver. And for some reason, even after the start to the season he had, he's not a consensus top 5 guy. And it baffles me a little bit. Maybe it's because everyone loves Justin Jefferson so much and some of the other receivers, but oh man, I think that Calvin Ridley, it started this year, but for the next 3 or 4 years, that this is going to be a Calvin Ridley dominated league where he is around that top 10 consistently every season.
Yeah, I mean that's why I was going off as well. Does Julio / Matt Ryan leaving worry you at all? Personally, it doesn't, but I want to see what you think.
I don't
Calvin
think
Ridley's
so.
never not had success in his life. He's always been good.
Well, yes. But it doesn't bother me because, Julio missed basically all of this year. I think he played 6 games this year or something like that. He did not play a whole lot. And on top of that, they do have a top 10 pick and is likely to be used on a quarterback. And they're not replacing him with a bridge guy. They're gonna try to replace him with their next quarterback. It's not a concern for me for the Falcons here.
All right, are we good on both those guys? Are we ready for my sell?
Yeah, let's
All
hear
right,
it.
so I was gonna go. I don't think the pod in the world is ready for the hot take of sell Jerry Judy. That was going to be my guy.
I would have loved
Um,
it.
yeah, but I'm going to pivot off it. I kind of have been mean to him on recent pods. So going to someone else is actually Zeke Elliott. Um, I think he's lost a lot of value, so that is where we're getting into the sell low kind of thing. But what you're going to start seeing over this offseason and what everyone's going to start posting about is he had a very injured offensive line. Dak wasn't in. He might have been banged up as well. Like, he's going to turn this year around. This is going to be a comeback year. And part of me says, sure, this year might actually be a comeback year for Zeke Elliott. But I'm not willing to bank on it. And even if it is a comeback year, the following year he's going to be 28. And there's so few running backs that are able to produce in their year 28 season that, they also have someone else behind him in Tony Pollard, who has shown that he's more than capable of filling in for the Zeke role. So while Zeke's value is low, I think it's going to slowly start to increase during the offseason as rumors, or not rumors, but like people start to rise up and say, oh, like, all these excuses for Zeke. And that's why I'm just gonna sell him and be like, all right, like, you guys can have him. And I'd go out and I'd go buy Tony Pollard. I know this is, kind of not part of the segment, but that's just my opinions on the Cowboys running back. And let me know what you guys think about that.
I mean, overall, like, he did not have as bad a year as everyone's saying. He finished running back 9. He only played 15 games. Ended up with uh 979 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground and 340 and 2 touchdowns receiving. So overall, not a bad, like, a horrible year, but obviously not what we've come accustomed to with Zeke. Um, he is only You were off by a year. Next year he will be 26, and the year after
Yeah,
he'll be
but
27.
okay.
You're
Mind.
off.
Yeah,
You're off by a year. However, I do agree with you. Running backs, they start to tail off around age 27. And I think, like you said, this is the time of the year where Zeke's value is going to start to build back up, especially if the Cowboys do come to an agreement here with Dak Prescott, which I expect, I think you expect, I think we all expect as a podcast, that Dak Prescott does end up back in Dallas. And if that happens, Zeke's value is going to continue to go up, especially, and then come around draft time, if they end up taking a lineman or something else to help this offense grow a little bit. I think it's just going to build on the hype of Zeke. Just, he's a big name. People love big names, and they're going to get caught up in, oh, he was injured. Oh, Dak wasn't there. Like you said, it's a perfect time to sell him. And then you don't have to worry about, him tailing off towards, 26, 27, like running backs typically do.
One small, I agree with, by the way, I agree with JT. I'd say one small thing that I think could be an interesting part if you are going to sell him. For me, I'm not trying to sell him this offseason. I'm trying to sell him like 5 games into the regular season. Because I think when he's fresh to start the year with Dak back, I think he'll have a pretty good start. I think he'll have an all right season next year, but I think that might be the highest value you can sell him at when he's starting off to the good stretch for next season. But I
That's
do agree with you, Jim.
yeah. That's fair. I just move on from him quicker rather than later.
Yeah. So moving on, Loon, you want to tell us who you got?
So I've got as my buy high, I've got CD Lamb. Now I know there's already been a ridiculous amount of rookie hype. I'm gonna explain my reasoning for him because he's already getting hyped up like crazy, and I would still buy high on him because I think he's gonna be that good. CD Lamb's someone who I think is gonna have multiple 1,200 yard, 13, assuming he stays healthy, which there's been no reason to not believe he will. Multiple 1,200, 1,300 yard seasons. Again, this is with Dak there. I do think Amari Cooper will not be on the team past after 2 years. 'Cause I think they want to get out of his contract. And when you compare him to his fellow rookie classmate, Justin Jefferson, according to January average Dynasty ADP, is getting drafted as wide receiver 3. He's been a top 5 wide receiver in recent Dynasty startup drafts at this month of January and at the start of the offseason. And I think Lamb is going to be better long term than Jefferson. I think they'll both be elite. I think they'll both be top 10 Dynasty wide receivers. I think Lamb does get into that top 5, though. I'll say in the next year, maybe not 1 year, but in next year and a half, 2 years. Paired along with Dak, I expect him to be the number 1 receiver by the time he's 24, 25 years old. I think he'll get there. And he's someone who I know the hype is already really high on him, but I think he's going to even exceed that and be an elite receiver for his entire career.
What price are you giving up for him?
That's a good question. It's 2 plus first. Obviously. I have to think. What would you consider the price on on a DK Metcalf?
That commands a lot, but I mean,
It's
I guess
hard to even put a price on that.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
need
I have
in a super
DK
flex
kind of
league.
farther ahead of CD by a decent margin.
No. I'm not saying they're the same. I just want to because I have CD a little bit below DK. I think they're close. That's how high I am on CD.
That's
so you're willing to give up 3 first, plus more probably.
Yeah, obviously it depends on the location. I don't know if I'd give up 3 top 4 firsts or something like that. But yeah, generally that.
Wow, you're really high on him. Obviously, I think he's a great receiver, very talented, good, offense to be in. When Dak comes back, but 3 firsts is a lot for anybody, and especially a guy that's
I don't think
not done it yet.
That's part of the reason I'm saying I don't think it'd take 3 first right now. I think it would take a little bit over 2.
Yeah, something though that I think we have to. While I like CD Lamb, something that I think we do have to recognize when we're talking about these players is like the Cowboys player specifically is. I think we're giving the Cowboys too much credit for being a competent organization and that they're going to be able to sign Dak. We're 50 days before free agency starts, and I've seen no inclination to believe that Dak is going to sign back with the Cowboys right now. If I was a Cowboys fan, I'd be extremely worried, and if I was an owner of those Cowboys receivers, I'd kind of get a little nervous. I just think that if there's any organization that's capable of throwing this away, I do think it's the Cowboys.
And that's a fair point. And I will say it's kind of a little bit of a cop-out disclaimer, but if Dak doesn't re-sign, my opinion does change.
What about 102?
Dak,
are you taking CD or 102 in this draft?
I think I'd take CD.
Okay.
I think this is very situational. I mean, if you need a quarterback, 102 in this draft, you're going to get the cream of the crop pick besides Trevor Lawrence here. You get anyone you want. You can get Lance, you can get Fields, you can get Wilson, whoever you like. So I think it's really situational here.
Hold on. So would you rather have CeeDee Lamb or Joe Burrow without positional needs to worry about? CeeDee Lamb or Joe Burrow?
I'm taking Lamb.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, you're really high on.
And again, I'm saying this is I hate the Cowboys, but I've just always been insanely high on CD Lamb.
Okay, who's your sell, Loon? Who's your sell?
So my solo, I think we've had a lot of quarterback controversy this offseason. We've seen discussions about the incoming rookie quarterbacks. We've seen them about Sam Darnold, Jimmy G, Stafford, Wentz, a little bit of Dak, Deshaun Watson.
Derek Carr.
I think this one has kind of gone under the radar, but there's been some questionable reports coming out. So my sell low is Jared Goff. We saw, and I sent it to Jake and JT, how McVay was kind of non-committal to Jared Goff as the guy next year and moving forward. And he did kind of have a disappointing year, and then there was reports we saw in that wildcard game, he was able to play, but McVay made the decision to play that backup over him. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head.
Walford?
Walford, yeah.
Walford.
Goff was able to play. Like, I'm sure McVay saw that in practice leading up to the game, and he still rolled with Wolford as the starter. I thought that was a little bit telling. I think their GM, the report just came out today about him not being 1,000% fully committal to Jared Goff as the guy next year. Um, that kind of raises some question marks for me too. And it's not that I don't think Jared Goff is going to not be a starter anymore. I'm just saying if he's not a starter on the Rams, I think his value goes down. Like
The one thing I will say about this, because I do agree, and I've seen the same reports you're talking about. I think they asked like the GM of the Rams, like, "Is Jared Goff your quarterback?" And he goes, like, "Right now he is." Like, he wasn't really
yeah,
enthusiastic, or he didn't really sell anybody saying like he's gonna be for a while. But his contract extension hasn't even kicked in yet. It kicks in next year, so like they are very much so tied to that contract for at least two, I think 3 years. It's going to be very hard to get out from that contract without significant cap hits. So I don't, I, although I do think the Rams might want to move on from Jared Goff, I don't think they have the means to move on from Jared Goff.
that's a very fair point. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I don't know. I think you said they're out, and that contract was what, in 3 years? You said
Yeah, I think it's after 2023.
after 2023. Yeah, which makes it tough. I don't know if they'd be willing to
Yeah.
eat some salary to make it a cheaper contract if someone else would be willing to trade for him. I don't know what happens. I don't know if they make him the most expensive backup in NFL history. It might even be the most expensive backup in sports history.
Well,
But
also
go
though,
ahead.
just real quick, like, so the owner of the Rams is also the owner of Arsenal. Stan Kroenke, I believe, is his name.
Oh,
And
jeez.
yeah, I just I don't think he's I I I guess I'm going after owners today. That's my whole organizations. I just don't think he's willing to just go and eat that cap hit. He's not really like that kind of guy. So um
He's
I
not
think
Steve
Jared,
Cohen.
no, he's
Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets,
he's
baby.
he's very wealthy, but I just think that part of me really believes that Jared Goff will be the guy, kind of like what the reports are coming out of Philly with Carson Wentz. Like they're just sticking with the guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of in your camp, JT. I'm sorry to disagree with you here, Loon, but I'm not panic selling Jared Goff. I think that if anything, Jared Goff could be a decent buy if someone is panic selling, just because at the end of the day, Jared Goff is never going to wow you. But at the same time, he led the team to the playoffs this year. I understand they beat the Cardinals in the last game of the season to make it to the playoffs, and Wolford won that game. But Jared Goff led them to the playoffs this year. John Wolford won one game. Then Jared Goff came in and had a pretty decent second half against the Seahawks, where I understand he didn't have a great game, but the guy had surgery on his thumb like a week ago in terms of that game. And I just think that Jared Goff, for a franchise, not fantasy related, but like for a football team, does enough for you to have him as your quarterback. He's not going to carry you necessarily, but he's the kind of guy, he's a good deep ball thrower. And he can make all the throws in the field. He's got the talent, but he will struggle against pressure. And I think we've kind of seen that. Like when the Rams O line gets hurt, they kind of suck. And when they can't run the ball, they kind of suck. But then when they can run the ball and they can give Jared Goff time and their guys are getting open, they're kind of chilling. So I think that they'll be keeping on to Jared Goff. And that contract, if the cap does keep rising and quarterbacks keep making more and more money, is not going to look as bad as you guys think it is right now.
Fair enough. So moving forward, I'll take this one. My buy high is Terry McLaurin, wide receiver of the Washington football team. Um, I think he's a super talented wide receiver that's just been stuck with, pretty much horrible quarterbacks his whole career. He's been, his rookie year, he had Dwayne Haskins. This year, he had Taylor Heineke, Dwayne Haskins, Alex Smith. Like, he's been playing with nothing at quarterback. Like we've talked about early in the draft, like earlier in the episode, I'm sorry. There's a lot of quarterbacks available in this year's draft, in this year's free agency, in this year's trade market. I fully expect the football team to go out and get one of these quarterbacks. I don't know who it's going to be. If it's going to be a Stafford, if it's going to be a Matt Ryan, or they're going to take one, trade up in the draft to take one of these rookies. I don't know, but it can't. Whoever it is, it can't be possibly worse than the situation that Terry McLaurin's had in his first 2 years in the league. And despite that, he's finished receiver 29 and 20 respectively. With this year he had 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns. Last year he had 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's a beast. If he could ever get a quarterback that can get him the ball, his value is only going to skyrocket. I know his value is high, just because he's probably a top 15 to 20 dynasty receiver right now. But his value can only go up from here, in my opinion.
Would you rather have Terry McLaurin or an Allen Robinson?
Give me Scary Terry.
What about Terry or T. Higgins?
I'm going to take Terry.
Ooh, okay. Terry or DJ Moore?
DJ Moore. That's where I draw it.
Okay.
Seriously, I like.
I might
Scary
still
a
take
lot
Terry.
more than DJ Moore.
Ooh,
I like
I don't
DJ
know if it's
Moore.
a lot
I think he's another guy that's going to get a quarterback, and he's been playing with a Cam Newton with one arm and one leg, and this year with Teddy Bridgewater. So I think
I know
both of
this
these
may
guys
sound
are.
like a. Sorry, Jake. Keep going.
No, I just think DJ Moore and Terry are pretty similar. I think DJ Moore's been in the league 1 year longer, but they both never really had a great quarterback throwing them the ball, and they both produced, statistically, in every season they've been in the league. So I think both of these guys moving forward, potentially with rookie quarterbacks or a new quarterback, will both benefit here.
Yeah, DJ Moore's also been in the league 1 year more than Terry McLaurin, but I believe he's 2 full years younger than Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin's kind of like this analytical anomaly. Like
Terry
it's
McLaurin
very
is
rare for
25, and
yeah,
DJ
DJ's
Moore
23. It's like a year and a half difference.
23.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Terry McLaurin's like a unicorn in the fact that like he didn't have breakout age in college and he was a 24-year-old rookie. So it's like it's very rare for Terry McLaurin to be doing what he's doing. I think almost like never been done kind of stats wise analytically.
I
Well,
still
right
believe
now
in
in my
him.
rankings, I know this is gonna come as like the hottest take of all time if I were to ask this in r/dynasty, but I have Terry McLaurin rated above CD Lamb. God forbid I rate any player above one of these 2020 rookies. I really like
Frank,
to have CD.
I don't think it's that hard to take. I really don't think it's that hard to take. Like obviously, CD's great, but he is competing for targets in this crowded Dallas offense. And it's still a question mark at quarterback. They haven't signed Dak yet. They haven't, like JT said, they haven't been rumblings that they're even close yet. So I don't think it's that hard to take.
I have him rated
where do
pretty
you have
similarly.
where do you have Michael Thomas in comparison to those guys?
I have him right in between the two of them, actually. That's hilarious. You brought that up.
I swear I wasn't looking. I just wanted to gauge value on everyone. All right. Well, that's good to know then. All right. So, but it sounds like you got them all like,
Yeah,
like,
they're right.
pretty
They're in the
close.
They're in
same
that same
tier. They're right around each other. It's at that. I can understand why people like CD more than the two of those guys, especially if you love his talent and like his long term. Go ahead. It's just I've always been the guy that, unless I really loved a rookie coming out, I am not gonna just all of a sudden buy insanely high on them after 1 year of production, especially in a weird year like this year was. Right? I mean. This is kind of a bad example. Just imagine if, you know, the season was only a half of what it was, because that's honestly what the sample size of an NFL season is like, right? It's very small sample size. And we saw Chase Claypool's number. Chase Claypool would be around the top 12, 13 receivers if we just take what he did in the first half of the season. And I feel like that's kind of how people are valuing Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. It's like, okay, they've had one good year. I understand they were crazy years, but at the end of the day, I'd much rather have Calvin Ridley than the both of them right now. I'd rather have, the Tyreek Hills, the Devontae Adams, even DK Metcalf. Like, I just, in terms of dynasty, especially in a startup draft, I want that little bit more proven asset than taking the risk. I don't care how good the payoff is. Sorry for the rant, but
That's a fair point.
It's all good. Well,
just completely
all
off
right. Now
topic.
that it's not that off topic, who are your buy highs and
Hey,
solos?
you forgot my cells,
Oh yeah,
JT.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go back
I
to
guess
my
we gotta
cells.
listen.
Slow
We
down
gotta
here.
listen to Jake and his Julio drama all over again. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah,
It's both.
yeah. We've heard it before. My sell low is Julio Jones. He's gonna be 32 next year. He played like 6 games this year. Obviously, when he's playing, he's an elite wide receiver. He's still the Julio Jones we know. He just can't stay healthy anymore. And for that reason, the best type of player is an available one. If he's not going to be on the field and you can get anything for him, you can get a late first, you can get maybe 2 seconds for him at this point. I think it's something to do. Receivers typically start to fall off around this age. I know he's an elite wide receiver and really, a freak of nature type of physical talent. But even then, father time gets you. So that's where I'm going. I'm selling him for now.
And I
Yeah.
think it's a fair point. I mean, how old is he now? He's 32. He just had an injury-riddled season. I think I mentioned this on an earlier pod about him. Ridley's only going to continue to get better. He's only going to continue to improve by the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if Julio, while he would have a good season, assuming he stays healthy, if Ridley has a little bit better statistical year. So no, I get it. Even though he is insane, one of the best receivers of all time.
I think there's also a good chance he is not playing in Atlanta next year. Change of scenery may help, may hurt, unknown. So we'll see.
I think it'll definitely be better to sell him because I think that change of scenery might hype him up a little bit, especially if he goes to a good offense. But real quick, I'll get into my sell low and buy high. I'll do 2 buy highs, one that I'll do really quickly, and then another that, because I know in the last episode I talked about Darnell Mooney. He's not the best buy high, but in terms of a guy that I would overpay for, dude, I really love Darnell Mooney's talent. And he's the kind of guy, I don't care if they bring in another receiver in Chicago. I don't really care who their quarterback is, as long as they can just hit any wide open throw. Um, it's hard to imagine it would be worse than what it was the past couple of seasons. So Darnell Mooney, I love. You can get him for less than a first. Another buy that I also
Love
really
that one,
love.
by the way.
Oh yeah, Darnell Mooney's gonna be so good.
He's great.
Bobby Tonyan, Robert Tonyan from the Packers. Dude, I wanted to buy him earlier in the season. I'm still going to try and buy him now in a lot of my leagues. Robert Tonyan, I think, is going to have. I know he had a breakout season this year, but I think that the season that he will have in 2021 will make this breakout look very insignificant. I think that Robert Tonyan has that chance of being an easily top 5 tight end. Not necessarily in terms of longevity, but like if we're looking, if you're a competing team that has like a crappy tight end like a Hunter Henry, and you want a good little tight end 2 play that you can get for less than a first, you don't have to go and pick up a Kyle Pitts. Robert Tyne, I think, is the guy for you. This is, I think, the only really elite level tight end that you can pick up for less than a first round pick in any tight end premium league. There's no shot Darren Waller owners giving up for less than a first. Mark Andrews, Kittle, Kelsey, even Dallas Goddard. Like, you would be hard pressed to find an owner, especially if it's a competing team, to give him up for less than a late first. So I think Bobby Tonyan is a great buy. You guys got any thoughts on those two?
I mean, I've already said I love
Um,
Mooney. Tanyan, real quick, I agree with you. I think as long as Rodgers is in Green Bay, his value is way too low.
I was gonna say, does the Rogers situation kind of scare you? Because if he's there, I like it, and I've been a huge Mooney fan, agreeing with you. I 1,000% agree. Tanyan, if Rogers stays, yes. If Rogers does leave, I think he'll still be good. I think he'll probably still be a tight end 1. I just don't think as high as he would have been.
All right, JT, go ahead and say your thing that I'm going to guess is about some sort of touchdown regression.
not far off about Tanyan. he had one of the highest catch rates. So it's actually a catch. This is a catch regression thing more than a touchdown regression thing. I just don't
Nice.
see them like when your number one wide receiver is Devontae Adams. Obviously, the ball is going to go to him a ton. But then, like, your next two guys are Allen Lazard and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And it's just like, to me, if they add any other competent wide receiver too, I just think targets are going to go down for Tunyon. And if he's not catching the same amount of targets and he's not getting the same amount of targets, like, targets are really what make that tight end, like that top tight end kind of player. And that's what's got me worried. Not only that, but yes, Aaron Rodgers might be out. We saw some kind of cryptic stuff in his presser. Obviously, it's a presser right after a big game that you just lost. So I don't know how much value we could put in that, but at some point, Rodgers is going to be gone. And I just don't know if Jordan Love is going to be the type 2 feed tight end. So,
Yeah, my whole thing is I just think.
I will say.
Sorry, Lounis, this is my turn. It's my turn.
I was going to defend. But do you think?
You're going to see they have Mercedes Lewis, so I think he's going to be gone next season. And the other thing, dude, Tunyon is one of those guys that he's just good in all phases. He's one of the few tight ends that you can kind of just put the ball in his hands and he'll make something happen. You do not see that a whole lot in the NFL with tight ends. And on top of that, he's a threat one-on-one. He's good against zone. Like, I just feel like with Tunyon, he's a tight end that you can get that's the entire package that you don't have to pay a ridiculous price for. He's kind of like that. I don't know. For me, he's just kind of like an anomaly right now in that, it's almost like, remember when Darren Waller was coming up, and even in this offseason, I was like, oh, well, Darren Waller is going to be able to do it again. He was a guy like came up weird, converted receiver. And a lot of people had doubts. I'm not sure it's the same way because Waller kind of had a crazier year and I think was worth a little more. But I think Tunyon is in a similar vein to that.
Fair point. And the point I was going to say to back up, Frank, when JT brought up the targets, I do expect them to improve their wide receiver 2 position, which you did mention will take some targets there. But also, it looks like, and I'm guessing, I don't think Aaron Jones is on that team next year. And he was a big threat in the short passing game where I think Tunyon can take some of those targets if he's not there anymore.
All right. Let's get into my sell, though. My sell,
okay.
and I have been telling people I feel like to sell this guy for so long, is Kenyon Drake. I have never been a Kenyon Drake fan. I've gotten into so many arguments about Kenyon Drake, and I would have sold him every single year if he was ever on my team, and I'm still selling him now. I would sell him for just about anything. A bag of Lay's potato chips, even the bad kinds. Second round picks, third round picks. Honestly, I have never believed in Kenyon Drake. I think he's such a jag. I think he's just going to continue to be a meddling jag and just hang around the NFL for another 2 years before he's just out.
Okay, I got a couple thoughts on
What
this.
potato chips would you take for him?
Yeah, no, wait, hold on, Jake, hold on. I got a couple thoughts. One, this might be stealing from like the part of my take, but like we should totally do a Lay's potato chip draft at some point. I think that might get our top views on YouTube. Now, two,
like and subscribe.
I've also been like and subscribe, comment below. Two, I have also been trying. I was a Kenyon Drake owner in our Dynasty League, and I was trying to sell him every year, and it was impossible. There was a point in time where I couldn't sell Kenyon Drake for like Benny Snell. Like I wanted Benny Snell in like a third, and this was before he got traded to Arizona. But like his perceived value is always so low, and until this year when he did get that starting like dominant kind of role where he was able to do stuff while he was kind of suffering from the Adam Gase effect in Miami. But it's just like I don't see it either. I don't see it in the guy. Like I don't necessarily believe Chase Edmonds is the answer for Arizona either. But I don't think Kenyon Drake will ever have a starting role again. Barring injuries and whatnot. But like he won't be one of the top 32 running back. Sorry. In the league.
He won't be a top 32 quarterback either. If you were hoping for him to become a top 32 quarterback, you're not going to see it.
We'll see what the Bears and some other teams do. He might.